Hi, कैसे हो आप सब? Welcome back to my YouTube channel SAS with Vikas. And in the last lesson, we had discussed the SAS statement and SAS function. And today we are going to cover the syllabus of PDB, like what is the PDB. And PDB is a very small portion of the data step processing. So we will cover today for the whole data step processing, the compilation phase and the execution phase. Within this compilation phase, we will also cover the input buffer, the PDB, the description information. So all thing we will cover with the thoroughly understanding with the example as well as the PDB, like at written content. What is the thing beside that one? Once we run any data set in our coding window, then what will happen? We'll see with all the thing. Like once you run any data set while the creation, once you create any data set, and you run that data set. Let's take an example of the employment one as we created in the date and info date variable function. So I'm using this same data set just for the understanding purpose. Like once you run once you create any data set and you run, then what have happened in the backside of the screen, how the process is going on. This complete process is known as the data step processing. While data step processing, there's two phases like compilation phases and the execution phases. All thing we will understand. First, understand this thing like what happened if you run this data set, and what happened if you run this data set while calling only data set this. So once you run this one, like once we run that created data set, so we are getting that all data result as per our requirement. And similarly, once you call that data set, so you are getting the result as per your requirement, like all the thing. But there is some changes in the process once you run that one. There is a changes in the process, like data step processing. So what is data step processing, and what is compilation phase, and what is execution phase, all we are going to learn this in the today. So let's start the session with this data step processing. So data step processing basically consists two phases, that is the compilation phase and execution phase. The compilation phase is the one that compiling the SAS statement and including the syntax checking. Once there is any kind of syntax error, it will must check the syntax error first. Once we run any data set, once we are going to run, once we selected this data set and going to run this data set, so while this running, the compiling of this data set, it always first check the syntax. If there is any kind of error in that semicolon, syntax means like semicolon, double inverted comma, the periodic symbol, the slash is any kind of syntax, whatever syntax in the SAS programming, that it must first check while the compilation phases. Once we run any while the compilation, it check the syntax error. Then what happened after this syntax error? Once there is no any error of the syntax, then what happened in that one? It will create an input buffer. If you are creating a raw input file, then it will create an input buffer. What is input buffer? We'll see in the further. So it will also create a program data vector, that is the PDB, and also creates a description information. So let's understand all 3 points in the deeply, like what is input buffer, what is PDB, and what is description information. So once you are running any program, like once you are running any program, then what happened in the backside of the screen? You created that data set, you selected that data set and press on the run button. Then it first go to the compilation phase and check the syntax error. If there is no any syntax error, then it will goes to the input buffer. If we created that data set, if you are not created that data set, then it never is started, it store in the input buffer, it directly store in the PDB. Okay, so what is input buffer? Input buffer is created once we are creating in a raw input file. Once you are created in data set, then input buffer is created. It read each record of raw data, one execute an input statement. Once you are in execute, once we are executed an input statement, it read each is record. Like let's understand with this example. We have created this data set with the input name, height, and weight. Another variable BMI we are calculating with this example, and storing the value of variable name, height, weight in the cards observable values. And I had made they make one mistake here also. So we can see, just for the learning purpose, just understand this thing, okay? So while the input buffer, it read the first iteration, like it reads each record. For the first record is read it there, like Barbara 61 12D, like that. So you can see that in the input buffer, the first record is read in that one. What happened after that? It also create the PDB. So PDB is what? What is PDB first? So PDB is logical area of memory that is created while a data is processing. Once we run in data set, that logical area of memory created, that is called the PDB. And it also contain a two automatic variable, that is the underscore n underscore and underscore error underscore. So you can see from here, like in the PDB, we having this automatic variable underscore n underscore and underscore error underscore. Apart from that, the what are the variable created in that data set will be there in the blank space. So what happened? Like input buffer, we know what is that. PDB, we know that what the logical area of memory that is created once the record contained by the input buffer, then it goes to the input PDB one by one. Then after PDB, it go to the execution phase. After this, also we aware with that description information. So what is the description information? Basically, the description information we are getting with the data set, like what are the variable, what are the name of the variable, what are the types of the variable, what are the length of the variable, all thing about that data set, we can know that is stored in this data set while the compilation phase. The detail of this description information you can get with the help of this procedure step, proc content data steps, sorry, proc content procedure step. So once you run this proc content procedure step, you can see that we are getting the all variable name, like whatever the variable created in this data set, we are getting that one. Along with the type of that variable and the length of that variable. Even if you are giving them in any in format and in format, then you will also get that thing. This is the complete description information of that data set. So like if you are getting that same result in the, if you are getting result in the sequence wise as you are creating the data set, then okay, otherwise you have to give that varnam for the sequence of that data variable, sorry. So for the sequence of that variable, you can use this varnam option. It will show that variable as per sequence as you had created in the data set, that particular data set. So this is about the description information. So we know about like input buffer. Once we created in a raw data set, we that input buffer is created. Once that goes to the compilation phase, that again move to the PDB, like it creates the logical area of memory to read the each iteration, like what is happening. It will also check the automatic error, that is underscore n underscore error all thing. And again it check the description information as well. This is the complete process within this compilation phase. And now what happened after the compilation phase, it will goes to the execution phase. So what happened in the execution phase, you can understand by here, like once we are going to the execution phase, this to complete PDB process is going to execute all the thing, like it will check the first iteration of that data set. It will check the number of iteration it first. It will check first error. If there is any kind of error, then it will show here on the screen. Like you can check all the thing in the PDB. If you make any mistake in that data set, it will show in the log of that coding, in the log window of the coding SAS programming. So again, in the PDB, we are getting that variable in the store. Once they store that data variable, so you can see that we are getting that the observation number, like iteration number, that this is the iteration one. And if there is error, then it will show the error number, that there is one error. For the no, if there is no any error, it will show the zero. If there is any error, it will show the one value. So as we can see that we had make a mistake here in the weight variable. If we are giving the 12D, that's why it could not give the execute that program, they execute that calculation. That's the process. That is the problem with this uh, very observation, the iteration. That's why we are not getting the useful result of that one. Like we are not getting the weight variable values. That's why we are not getting the BMI. Similarly, it will goes to the iteration for the next iteration again. Next iteration you can see from here. The next iteration we are getting the John and the weight of this one and the height of this one, like that all. So the next iteration is going like the we are getting this nitration number 2, and if there is no any error, it will show the zero value, and it store the all observation value in the input buffer. Again in the PDB it will store the all value, like where all the values, variable values is stored in this PDB. And again after this storing this one, we have to calculate this variable. It calculate the variable first, then it will show in the output window. So this is about the complete PDB and the execution and compilation phases. So this is about that PDB. PDB is a logical area of memory that is created while data step processing. Once we run any data set, then there's two process always going there in the backside of the screen. That is the compilation phase and the execution phase. The compilation phase contain that input buffer. Once we are creating any raw data, it will contain a PDB, that is the logical area of memory, while the compilation phase, while the execution phase, PDB is created, and it contains a description information, the complete description of the variable, like the attributes of the variable we can know, we should know that all thing. And in the execution phase, it contain each iteration at a time. Again, it fill the value of missing variable in the PDB. It check the error first, like if there is no any error, then it will run the program in the PDB, and show the output in the output data set. So similarly, once you run this data set also, you can see that we are not getting the value of weight, even BMI, because BMI is calculated with the help of weight and height. So that's why we are not getting. So you can see that if you are not doing any mistake, syntax error, then it program also running that one. If you are making the mistake of the value, like if you are giving the numeric value instead of numeric value, you are not, you are giving the character value. So that's why that observation, that iteration only not executed, but the rest of that apart from that iteration or observation is going to execute all that. Once you make changes with that observation or iteration, so you can see from here we are getting the result. So this is about that. Once you mention the weight of that variable, so you are getting the result of BMI. So this is for the understanding purpose, like what is the data set once you create that one, what is the data set once you calling that one, and what is the PDB with the help of example this data set. And I just give you the thorough knowledge of that one, what is the compilation phase and what is the execution phase. Like you can see like what is the thing happening backside of the screen. Once you run the execution, once you run the any program in the execution phase, counting the iteration of the data step, what is the iteration of that one, and setting all the variable to missing in the PDB. After that, setting all the variable in the PDB. Once that count iteration of that one, you can see here the setting all the variable in the PDB. It store the variable value in the PDB. There's the missing of that on thing, then it store the variable value in the PDB. After that, you can see there's automatic variable, initializing of the automatic variable. If there is a error of that any kind of like error while the missing of the variable, like if you are storing that variable in the numeric type, but there is mentioning in that variable in the character one, that then you can get that you can get error in the automatic, like in the error column it will show like one value. Once you run that program also, you can see with the log window like this. Suppose you are getting, you are giving here in the 12 day, so you are not getting the value of this variable. You can check this all like in the error one. So you can see from here like you are in getting the iteration 1 underscore n underscore 1 is equal to 1, you're getting error 1. So you can check that thing like Barbara 61 and 12D, you are getting error here. So you have to do changes with that. You have to bug the program from here. So this is about that. This is about the thorough understanding of the PDB. Like what is the PDB? Okay. So apart from the PDB, I also give the knowledge of the compilation phase and the execution phase, how the process is going on in the backside of the screen. Once you run in dataset, once you run any program, what happened? You should know that thing, like what is happening behind the screen. And this is very important topic just for the understanding the thing, what is happening inside the screen, backside of the screen, and how the program is going on processing. Just because once you read that, once you learn the filtered condition, that is where the and the conditional statement, that is the if and then conditional statement, then it will be very helpful to understand there, like how the process is going on, how the process is going on, like while the compilation phase and while the execution phase. So there are many more questions asking in the interview, like what is the PDB, how the process is going on with the PDB. Just explain me the difference of that if and where with the help of PDB. All things you need to know this very important point. Okay, this is about this one. Like one more point I want to explain that is you need to know about this PDB. Like what is the PDB? PDB is a logical area of memory which is created by data static processing. This is about this only PDB, and how the PDB is going in the execution phase process. Execution phases, like it store the values of the missing variable in the PDB and check the error first. If there is error, then it will show in the one in underscore error underscore. If there is no any error, then it will show zero value in the underscore error underscore. So like this way you can understand the thing, and you can make practice on the data, like while the creation of the data you can create any data set and do practice with that. Yeah, what is happening, what are the changes if if I making any error, what are the changes if I solving that error. So you can analyze by that way, and that will help you to understand the further process. Thank you for that. Just do practice with this.